All right, let's talk about this movie. And no, this shirt is not a hint at what is in the movie. This is just the only Marvel shirt I have right now. I do have a Deadpool shirt, but it's at my dad's house, so I didn't have it for this video. So I just saw Deadpool and Wolverine last night, and there's a lot I want to talk about, but I think I'm going to have to get into spoilers in order to really dive into this film because there's just not much to say without saying spoilers. So, my quick non-spoiler thoughts are you should definitely go watch this movie if you're a Marvel fan, if you're a Deadpool fan, if you're an X-Men fan. If you were interested in this movie in any way, I think you're going to have a fun time with this movie. It's very entertaining. There's awesome cameos in it. There's really great action. The jokes, most of them are funny. And please go see it in a theater. This is definitely a theater experience. If this movie delivers on anything, it's a great theater experience. You know, try to see it with like a packed theater. There's going to be cheers. There's going to be claps. There's going to be laughs. It's going to be a fun time at the theater. Your money is not going to be wasted. However, I do have some problems with the movie. There's some things about this movie that holds it back from being great, like amazing. This movie is a great time at the theaters, but I think this movie is going to be suffering the same things that No Way Home suffers from, which is upon rewatch, especially when you're rewatching it like at home, it's going to lose some of its magic. I don't think it's going to hold up quite well as that first viewing experience in the movie theater with a packed crowd. That's my short non-spoiler review of this movie. Now I just really want to get into it and talk spoilers. So if you have not seen the film yet, please go watch it. I don't want to ruin any of the surprises in this movie. I was actually quite surprised by some of the cameos in this film. Be warned, when you're watching the rest of the video, I am going to be spoiling everything. So if you don't want to know anything about the movie going in, go watch the film first, then come back and watch this video and hear me talk about it. Okay, first things first. Let's start with the titular characters, Deadpool and Wolverine. How were they in this film? They're great. They are pretty much exactly how you expect them to be in this film. At least they were exactly how I expected them to be in this film. They work very well together. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have great chemistry in this movie. It's awesome to finally see Deadpool and Wolverine on screen together in their comic accurate depictions. It's definitely a sight to see. I was honestly more excited to see Wolverine in this movie than Deadpool. I like Deadpool. I like Deadpool a lot. I think he's funny. I think he's a fun character. But that's pretty much all I see him as. I was kind of tired of Deadpool after Deadpool 2, so I wasn't sure how I was going to like him in this movie, but I'm always down for more Wolverine. He was the huge hook for me in this film, especially since between these two characters, Wolverine is the one that has the better character development. He has more depth than Deadpool. Deadpool, I think, is a very shallow character. There's not much to him beneath the surface. There's some stuff. There's a little bit. This movie touches upon that. But Deadpool is nowhere near as deep of a character as Wolverine is, at least in the movies. I can't speak for the comic books, but yeah. And I'm happy to say that Hugh Jackman really delivers on Wolverine in this movie. This movie delivers on Wolverine. You get some great Wolverine scenes. You get some amazing Wolverine action. It is fun. It's really cool. I will say, his suit, the sleeves bothered me. They bothered me when I first saw them in the trailer, and they still bothered me in the movie. I don't like the sleeves. One thing that was missing in the trailer was Wolverine's cowl. Does he have a cowl? Does he wear the cowl in this movie? Yes, he does wear the mask in this movie, although for me, personally, it comes in a little too late. I wish he wore it more in the movie. He really only wears it in the last half hour of the movie. No, maybe not even. Maybe like 15 minutes. In some of the promotional material, I've noticed that there's a version of, they're showing off a version of the Wolverine costume in this movie that does not exist in the movie. It's a slight difference, but it's still different. And that's the version where Wolverine has his mask and no sleeves, but he's got the shoulder pads. They've been showing it. If I find a picture of it, I'll show it in the video. They're showing off this version of the Wolverine suit that I think most of us can agree. I think that's the best version of the suit from this movie, and it's not in the actual movie. At no point does he wear that version of the suit. I was kind of worried that that was going to be the case, and it was. He does have the suit with no sleeves and the mask, but he's missing the shoulder pads. He doesn't have those blue shoulder pads. That would have been the finishing touch for that suit to make it perfect. So it's close to being, the Wolverine suit is close to being perfect in this movie, but it's not quite. But that's just kind of like a nitpick. It's not a big deal. I think one of the biggest flaws of this movie that really holds it back from being great, it really is the story. The story is, quite frankly, mediocre. It's almost like non-existent. Like it's there is a story there, but it's very like shallow. It's very simple. The whole story is just an excuse to get Deadpool and Wolverine on screen together. That's the only reason why this story exists. It also serves to inject Deadpool into the MCU, although he never really gets fully into the main MCU timeline. By the end of the movie, he doesn't really join the MCU. So it kind of leads me to believe that like this movie is kind of like an ending to Deadpool. I don't know if we're going to get any more Deadpool movies after this. To be honest, I don't think I want any Deadpool movies after this. I don't know where you could go with Deadpool after this movie. This movie is like pretty much like the final destination for the Deadpool character. Like you really can't get bigger than this. You already brought back Hugh Jackman, and you have Wolverine and Deadpool on screen together in like a multiversal movie. It's the most meta and most fourth wall breaking a Deadpool movie has ever been. So there's really nowhere else to go after this movie. And I think this movie serves as a good ending to the Deadpool character. As for the Wolverine character, Logan was the perfect ending for Wolverine. This movie kind of undoes it, not really. It definitely gave me an awkward feeling seeing Deadpool dig up Wolverine's grave at the beginning of this movie. That's literally how they start the movie. All that's left of him is just his adamantium skeleton, and then the TVA come in, try to arrest him, and he literally uses Wolverine's adamantium skeleton, his remains, as weapons to fight the TVA. He's literally killing and stabbing TVA members with Wolverine's bones. And it's silly, but it felt somewhat disrespectful to the movie Logan. Now when I rewatch Logan, I'm not going to be able to get that image of Deadpool digging up Wolverine's corpse out of my mind. That's always going to be in my mind now whenever I watch the ending of Logan, that oh, they buried him in the ground, but, you know, years later, Deadpool's gonna come in and desecrate his grave. And then, on top of that, later on, Laura, X-23, comes in and pretty much implies that she got pruned by the TVA after Logan. It's implied that it's the same version of X-23 from the movie Logan. So it kind of like lessens Logan's sacrifice at the end of Logan, because he pretty much sacrificed himself to let X-23 go off and live her life. But it seems like ultimately it was kind of pointless, because like 7 years later, she's in the void. The TVA came in and pruned her and took her out of her universe. I don't know why they did that. They never explained that. That was another thing that bothered me. They never explained why she was in the void. I can understand why Elektra and Blade and Gambit were there and Johnny Storm. Like, let me say, those cameos, awesome. I loved seeing those guys, especially Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm is kind of treated like a joke here. He gets a really horrible death. That was a really gruesome death for poor Johnny. It was funny though. I wish we got to see a little bit more of Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. At least have one action scene with him. Like we get to see him use his flame powers, but he immediately gets countered and subdued. Like right after he does that, he doesn't get to really do anything. The other cameos, though, we get a really great action sequence. I think that was my favorite action sequence of the movie with Blade, Elektra, Gambit, X-23, Deadpool Wolverine, all fighting these guys. They're fighting all of the past villains from the X-Men movies. You got Juggernaut there. You got that red Nightcrawler guy, the guy that looks like a devil from X-Men First Class. You got what's the lady with the big claws? She extends her nails into like adamantium claws. Are they adamantium? I think they're adamantium. I forget. Lady Deathstrike, is that her name? Pyro is there too. It was nice to see like all these characters return from the old X-Men movies. But that whole scene was awesome, especially like the Gambit bits. I now am kind of disappointed that we never got that Channing Tatum Gambit movie. And they make so many jokes about that because they're all like, oh, no one, they're being very meta about these guys showing up. They're like, oh, no one really remembers us anymore. We want to get the ending we deserved, and Gambit's over there like, yeah, or some people don't even know us. Like he's like, they don't even know me. I never even got my movie off the ground. The audience never even got to meet me. The costume they had for him looked great. It was like a comic accurate Gambit, and his voice was so funny. What kind of accent is it? Louisiana? They have him do that really like weird accent where you can't understand him, and there's so many jokes about Deadpool not being able to understand him. It's actually so funny. But his action bits in that one fight scene were really cool. Like the way he was like using his cards and like he'd throw his card at someone and then their body would explode. Oh, it was fucking cool. So those guys were all nice to see. It was very great to see. I was happy to see Blade. There's one deep cut joke about Blade in there. At one point, he says, motherfuckers are still trying to skate uphill. And I actually bursted out laughing when he said that because that is one of my all-time favorite bad one-liners from the original Blade movie where he says,
some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
I don't know what the hell that means. What does that mean? It doesn't make any sense, but it's so funny. It's so bad that it's hilarious. And I love that they made a callback to that line in this movie. I also love when he said, there's only going to be one Blade. And then Deadpool like makes a funny look at the camera after Blade says that. Cause we all know the Blade movie that Marvel's trying to make with Mahershala Ali is in development hell right now. At this point, we don't even know if it's gonna get made, if that movie's ever gonna come out. So yeah, right now, it feels like there's only ever gonna be one Blade, and that's Wesley Snipes. But we'll see. I hope to God that's not true. But I love that they poked fun at that. I do like that Marvel makes a lot of like self-deprecating jokes in this movie. There's a lot of jokes targeted at Marvel. There's jokes targeted at the fans. Oh my God, I just remember there's even a DC joke because the one cameo I had no idea was going to be in this. I was completely shocked to see this person in here. And that was Henry fucking Cavill as Wolverine. I think I remember some people were fan casting him as Wolverine. And it looks like they did a nod to that fan casting in this movie because, during that and I'll get to that montage of different Wolverine variants in a sec, because there's one part of that fucking montage that gave my hopes up, I'll say. But seeing Henry Cavill as fucking Wolverine was great. I loved seeing him. This movie has a lot of fan service in it, and personally, when fan service is done well, then I don't mind it. As Chris Stuckman says, I'm a fan, so service me. That's the mentality I have when it comes to movies like this. If it's done well, if it's done tastefully, then I'm fine with it. I was fine with seeing Elektra and Blade and Gambit because they actually were part of the story. They weren't just like, oh, hello. They didn't just like show up, wave to the camera, and then leave. They actually served part of the stories. They were actual characters here. In terms of the Henry Cavill thing, that was more just like a joke, but I loved seeing him. He actually looked really great. The other part of that montage that I want to talk about, you probably already know if you've seen the movie, is the part where Wolverine fights Hulk. I was really hoping we would get a Wolverine and Hulk fight, but no, we don't. We don't even really get a good look at Hulk. That's another thing that pissed me off. We don't actually get to see Wolverine fight Hulk. They fucking teased us. They knew that we wanted this. They knew we were aching for a fight between Hulk and Wolverine, and they didn't give it to us. But yeah, going back to the story, that's the main thing that's kind of bringing this movie down for me. Let me say this. I had a smile on my face throughout the whole movie. And even when the movie ended, I was very entertained. I was very happy. I was like, this was great. This was a great time. But the more I think about the movie, the more the problems start coming up. The story is not memorable at all. It's very weak. The whole final fight in the movie is just a joke. It has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. It has nothing to do with the story, and that's the fight between Wolverine and all the different Deadpool variants. Like, that was cool to see, but like, what did all of those Deadpool variants have to do with Cassandra? The whole story, Cassandra is the main villain here. Cassandra and the other guy, Paradox, which is a stupid name. Those were the villains of the movie. Why are we fighting all these Deadpool variants? Like, they just come in out of nowhere as like a joke. And it was a cool fight. I liked that it was just like a one-take fight. It kind of looked like the one-take fight scene from Oldboy, where it's just like the camera's just moving left to right and you're seeing all the carnage happen. It was really cool. It was fun. But it's just one big gag, and I'm like, it doesn't really hold much weight to the story. And that brings me to the villains. The villains in this movie suck. Quite frankly, Cassandra Nova sucks, and the Paradox guy sucks even more. Like, look, the actress is doing her best. I don't know her name, but she does a really good job here. But I can't help but wish we had a better villain, a villain that would mean more to Wolverine and Deadpool, someone that actually like matches their energy. Maybe, I don't know. You had all these people to choose from the X-Men rogues gallery, and they ended up going with Cassandra Nova, who's really just forgettable in this movie. Now, she has some cool powers, but like ultimately she's just like an obstacle in their path. Her character doesn't really have anything to do with Deadpool's motivations in this movie. Like, what Deadpool is trying to achieve in this movie, it has nothing to do with Cassandra. It does have to do with Paradox. Deadpool is just trying to save his universe from being wiped. And that's what Paradox is trying to do. He's trying to wipe out Deadpool's universe. So yeah, it makes sense that he would be one of the villains in this movie. But like, he's also not that great. He's a very one-note villain. He has no depth to him at all. Stereotypical British villain. They had a nice moment where I like this speech that Wolverine gives when, Cassandra's about to die and he chooses to save her, and he's like, Charles wouldn't want this. And Charles, You know, if he knew you existed, he would fight like hell to find you. He would love you. And that was all nice. And then it seems like Cassandra's good now and she helps them escape. And then immediately she does a 180 turn and goes back to being evil and then decides, you know what? I'm just going to destroy every universe so that the void is the only universe that exists. Okay, what? That was so stupid. I hated that. What was the whole point of her helping Deadpool and Wolverine escape the void if she's just going to go back and try to kill them again, I guess? Like, I don't know. It was so stupid. I really hated the villains in this movie. They just weren't good. Oh, the other problem I have with this movie, the cinematography. It's very dull. It's not anything special. The whole movie feels like it's shot like a commercial. I've heard that opinion be expressed online just from looking at the trailers. And yeah, it does look that way in the final film, especially that scene where Deadpool is being interviewed by Happy Hogan. It was nice to see Happy Hogan in this movie. I was not expecting to see him, but that whole scene where he's, you know, applying to be on the Avengers and he's being interviewed by Happy, the way that scene is lit, the way that scene is shot, it just looks like a Progressive commercial. Like, what is this? Even the color grading too, everything is just so bright, and it's like, it's too bright. Like, to the point where it was almost getting overexposed. And I'm like, what is this? Is not an ad. I know you've probably seen all those ads that they've filmed for this movie, like the Heineken ad that they did with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. The way that those commercials are shot is the same way that this movie is shot, and that's like that just shouldn't be the case. This whole movie looks like an ad. It's shot like an ad, and I don't know. I wish the cinematography was a little better. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not incompetent. It is shot competently, but it's shot like every other fucking Marvel movie nowadays. They really needed to like up the saturation. Definitely, they probably should have upped the contrast. I feel like this movie just needs more contrast. Some scenes looked better than others. I will say, the whole film didn't look that dull, but for the most part, the film looks like a commercial. I wish the ending was a little bit stronger. Everything kind of goes back to the status quo at the end of this movie. If this really is going to be the last Deadpool movie, I wish that Deadpool got a little more of an impactful ending. Same thing with Wolverine. It's like Wolverine already got his good ending in Logan, and then you're bringing him back in this. And the way they kind of end him off on this movie is nowhere near as good as the ending of Logan. So it just kind of begs the question, like, why even bother bringing him back? Like, I was hoping that they would give him another good ending, another good send-off in this movie. He doesn't really have much of a send-off. It's just kind of like, oh, well, you know, the movie's over now. We're done with our mission. And they just hang. It ends like a Fast and Furious movie. They all have like dinner together. It's all about family. But yeah, that pretty much does it for my my Deadpool and Wolverine discussion. I just wanted to talk about some things, dive into spoilers. I still think it's a good movie. It's still enjoyable. It's gonna be a fun time in the theaters. Go see it in the theaters. You're gonna enjoy yourself. But there's just a couple big issues that I have that really hold this movie back from being great, from being like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. I think right now, where I have this movie, it's a 7 out of 10. I think for me, it's good. It's not great. I actually agree with IGN for once on a review. Also, I gotta say, ironically, rather than getting me excited for the future of the MCU, this movie just makes me want to go back and rewatch all the Fox Marvel movies. The mid credits stuff. It's not a mid credits scene, but it's like a montage. Kind of like a farewell to the Fox Marvel universe. I really enjoyed that. That was one of the best parts of the movie for me. I really loved seeing that. It really was just, it felt like a love letter to all those old movies, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, at the end of the day, you know, those movies were part of my childhood. even the bad ones. And it was really nice to just see them all represented in this movie in that final like farewell supercut compilation. And they picked a great song to go along with it, Green Day's Good Riddance. It's a perfect song to end the Fox Marvel universe on. That's really what this movie is. This movie, instead of really like setting up future installments in the MCU, this movie really serves as like an ending to the entire Fox Marvel universe. This is like the finale, the grand finale of Fox's Marvel universe. But yeah, that just about does it for this video. If you've seen this movie, hopefully you've seen the movie by now because I just spoiled everything about it. But if you have seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Did you love this movie? Did you think it was a fitting end to the Fox Marvel universe? Let me know. If you enjoy this content and you're not subscribed to me, please consider subscribing. It is free after all. I really want to see this channel grow. I just recently hit 200 subscribers. That was a great milestone to hit. Now we're going to shoot for 300. Yeah, also, please consider giving the video a like. It does help this video out, helps me out with the algorithm. And yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you all next time.